Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be comparing a 2022 Chevy Trail Boss to a 2022 GMC Sierra AT4, and we're going to decide which one of these sibling vehicles is the better buy. Now, before we get into the video, I'm going to include a link to the dealership's inventories in the description down below that originally provided me with both of these trucks, and that did not make any grammatical sense whatsoever. But anyways, on a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below as well. I will be increasing the price on the guide next month. So if you want to get it at the lower price that it is at now, then yeah, just go ahead and get it now. Let's get into the comparison. Starting things off under the hood of the Trail Boss, we have a naturally aspirated 6.2 liter V8 that goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission. It's good for 420 horsepower. And then 460 pound-feet of torque. And it seems like this is the engine that everyone wants under the hood of the Trail Boss. They always seem to be pre-sold if they have 6.2 V8 from what I've noticed. Now popping over to the AT4, this one has the Duramax. It's good for 277 horsepower and then 460 pound-feet of torque. It's a 3-liter inline 6, also goes through 10-speed automatic transmission. And the thing that's funny is the 6.2 V8 is still the most desirable engine under the hood of the AT4, but it seems like the Duramax is becoming more and more popular with the AT4, which again is kind of interesting. Now going over the front end of the Trail Boss, you notice that you have some design touches from the new Silverado ZR2. You've got that accent piece there in the center portion that was kind of stolen from the ZR2. Notice you got the blacked out 6.2L badge off to the side. And then we've got Chevy's new headlight design with the daytime running light down below the headlight. And notice how everything within the bezel is darker in coloration, and you can see all the trim down there as well. And then notice here with the central grille, and then the Chevy bow tie has a little bit of chrome around it, but the center is blacked out. Tow hooks there on either side. Notice those are blacked out instead of red like normal. You got skid plates underneath. And what's interesting is you have the fog lights really low on the bodywork, 10.9 inches of ground clearance with the Trail Boss. Now moving over to the AT4, you can see it definitely has more of a luxury appearance to it. Notice here with the design on the hood, flat, nothing too crazy happening. You know, there's not like this giant, black piece in the center, right? And then notice the coloration there with the grille, and then you got the C-shaped headlights here with the LED headlights. Well, I should say the C-shaped LED accent lights. Anyways, notice the coloration on the grille, GMC logo with the camera there at the bottom, and you got your AT4 badge there on the front end. And then you can see again fog lights pretty low on the bodywork, parking sensors, red tow hooks here at the bottom. And even though this looks like it doesn't have as much ground clearance, still has 10.9 inches of ground clearance, still has skid plates underneath, which it's weird, completely different looking design, but same practicality, right? Now, coming here to the side of the Trail Boss, you guys can see the tire and wheel setup. This one's got 18-inch wheels. You've got 33s wrapped around those, and you can see they're pretty aggressive from a tread pattern perspective. You have a 2-inch lift here with the suspension as part of the Trail Boss package. Definitely gives it a nice stance, and that's what helps it get that 10.9 inches of ground clearance. Got your blacked out Z71 badge, and then notice the mirrors. Blacked out, you do have keyless entry there for the front. You can see the splash guard. Rancho shocks and leaf springs here. And the rear end, those Rancho shocks are part of the Trail Boss package. And then this one is the Midnight Trail Boss, so that's why everything's blacked out, including the Trail Boss logo. And then you can see the full side view right there. And then coming over to the AT4, still have 33s here, as you guys can see. And really aggressive there with the tread pattern. And also the wheels, again, notice instead of being all blacked out, you've got silver there on the wheels to kind of go towards that sportier type theme, which makes sense. 2-inch lift, just like the Trail Boss, and you can see the front suspension there. Everything is identical. But notice here you've got your Duramax turbo diesel badge and the AT4 badge. And then you guys can see the plastic molding for the fender flares, and then now the side steps down below that. And then here's your full side view. It kind of like almost looks boxier in a sense because of the GMC styling, and also because of how pronounced the fender flares are. And then Rancho shocks, leaf springs in the rear as well, so nothing's changed from that perspective. You guys can see the key fob here for the Trail Boss, and it's got the drop down there for the tailgate. Now from payload and towing capacity perspective, since they are sibling vehicles, same, right? Same payload, same towing capacity. If you get the same powertrain, or if you get different powertrains, right, it's going to be different. The 6.2 does tow a little bit more than the Duramax. Notice you got lights there, and then you can see there with the Chevy bow tie at the center of the bed, and then the cargo light at the very top. And then this one has the auto raised tailgate, if I remember properly. Yes, it does. That's a pretty cool feature. Makes you able to be lazy, right? And then you can see you've got Chevy's normal taillights here in the rear, and then you got the bumper step. And then notice there with the parking sensors, Silverado logo, all that's all blacked out, which looks great. And then you've got the squished exhaust tip coverings, which have also been blacked out as part of this Midnight Edition package. And yeah, overall, I think Chevy did a good job with the rear styling of the Trail Boss. And then here is the key fob for the AT4. So, still have the tailgate drop down. And notice here with the bed, you've got that little, we've got the light, you got that handle that helps out because this one has the multi-pro tailgate. Power outlet here on the bed, so functionality right there is the same. But notice instead of having a Chevy bow tie, you got your AT4 logo right there. And then you can see with the cargo light at the top. And then notice here with the multi-pro, how that pops down. It can hold 375 pounds. You can also get that on the Trail Boss if you guys are wondering. So that is all the same. And yeah, definitely a cool looking setup. The multi-pro does make the tailgate heavier when you lift it up. That is another thing to kind of mention. And you can't get the auto raise function with the multi-pro. It's just too heavy. C-shaped lights. I do think the taillights on the GMC look a little bit more modern, if that makes sense. You've got the bumper steps, you got the parking sensors, still have the squeezed exhaust tip covers. And then you guys can see the receiver hitch there at the center portion. And then notice AT4 there on the back end. And yeah, again, with those fender flares, definitely looks just quite a bit boxier compared to the Trail Boss. Trail Boss looks more rounded off almost. And here's the door panel on the back of the Trail Boss. We got the wood trim here at the top, and a silver trim. Then you've got your padding there on the armrest. And then coming to the seats, the big thing with the Trail Boss that I've talked about consistently is they're just easy to clean seats. The reason being is it's not perforated at all. Notice that there's no perforation, so that means that you're not going to have stuff getting embedded into the seat, and you just can wipe stuff right off. So that's why they're the easy to clean seats. A lot of people are asking that in my review of this truck. Vents down below with the USBs, and you can see space back there is great for a passenger, and then having a rubber floor mat is also a nice little practical thing. And then of course, cup holder armrest. That's always just a very important thing. Now, popping over here to the AT4, notice we got a little bit more color, which I think is interesting is that you've got like darker trim there at the top and then brown stitching, whereas the Trail Boss has wood trim. You'd think the Trail Boss would be the one to have darker trim since it's like all blacked out, and this would have wood trim since it's luxury. So weird to me. Anyways, you can see the brown leather there, and then still have the behind the seat storage. But notice these seats would not be as easy to clean off because there's the perforations in the center portion of the seat. And then the floor mats have that dual function, which I think is so cool. I wish more floor mats were made like that. And then cup holders, you got heated rear seats, you've got the USBs, still have the cup holder armrest, and then notice space there just as good as the Trail Boss because it's the same cab. And anyways, popping back over to the Trail Boss, you can see again with that wood trim. So I think they should like swap trim pieces at the top of the door panel. I think that would make sense. And then you can see the mirror there with the blind spot monitoring. You've got padding. Down below, you've got all of your window controls and then your mirror adjustments, speaker for the Bose, sound system, and then here are the front seats. So notice again, no perforation, so that'll make it so that wiping the seat off is a little bit easier. Power adjustments with the Z71 logo. Just get your pedals down below, and above that, you guys can see we've got the light controls right there in that section. Then you have a drive line and then drive mode select. It does have 4-wheel high as well as 4-wheel auto, 4-wheel low, 2-wheel drive. Then the trailer tow mode, parking brake. Steering wheel is manually adjustable with the Trail Boss. And then popping back over to the AT4, you can see darker trim there at the top. And then notice again with that contrasted stitching and piping down below in the AT4 colors. And then notice it has the AT4 plaque, so you can flex to yourself every time you open up the door that you got an AT4. Speaker for the Bose sound system. Notice all that stuff's the same. And then another AT4 logo, and in the headrest, they don't let you forget this is an AT4. And then notice here with the inserts, again, perforated. But the bolsters, they look the same. You have different stitching, though. Pedals down below. And then you've got same light controls, same drive line select, same drive mode select, same tow haul mode select. All that is identical with both of the trucks. And then moving on from that whole section, something you guys will notice, heads-up display, and then you've got the controls for the power adjustable steering wheel. So that's another nice upgrade with the AT4. Popping back into the Trail Boss, here's the animation when you close the door with the Trail Boss. It's kind of a cool little logo. I mean, I dig it, and obviously you can just start up the truck. You don't have to wait for that animation every single time, if you guys are wondering. And actually starting up the truck now, you can see the startup animation, which is super quick. Now here's the steering wheel. Notice we got nice padding all around, and then you got the stitching there on the center portion. More silver trim, controls for the center stack, voice command controls, radio controls in the back, and then you've got paddle shifters for that 10-speed automatic. And then we have our cruise control with the heated steering wheel button. This one has a credit for it, so notice it doesn't illuminate when you press it, which is kind of funny. And then turn signal, windshield wiper, stock, and yeah, pretty decent steering wheel setup. Going to the digital gauge cluster, really nice setup. So you basically just have gauges on either side for the RPMs and for the speed, like a normal car, and then like your fuel and temperature down below. And then notice with the drive modes, as you change them, you have a normal and off-road for the Trail Boss. And there's a tow haul mode. Gives you a little animation, which I think looks cool, and it shows the Silverado driving. So yeah, job well done on that. Looks, like I said, decent. And then you can see the different screens you can scroll through to see different bits of info on like the truck, for example. So, you know, pretty modern gauge cluster. Infotainment system. First off, from a camera perspective, really solid. That's something that GM is just great with cars basically nowadays, is they just have really good camera systems. You can see out of it pretty much every single angle. Now this particular Trail Boss does not have the cargo camera, like the bed camera, but it has every other camera view. So I'm not going to knock it for that, just something worth mentioning, but you can get the cargo camera as an option. As for the rest of the infotainment system, you have the shortcut bar, you have the main screen right there. You can see response time's great with the screen, and then you have that auxiliary screen, which will show you a couple different bits. You can change it to be a clock, which, you know, kind of looks nice. And then notice we got an analog home button, and then it's got a bunch of safety tech, right? And you can see a lot of shortcut controls right here. Big thing, hill descent control, because again, we're talking about the off-road stuff in today's video, and then of course automatic roll down with all the windows, which is kind of interesting. And the other thing to mention is you can see trailer brake controls. And then notice heated seats, dual zone climate, no air conditioned seats in the Trail Boss. Got some storage space down below that. Oh, but the heated seats work in this truck, so I don't have a credit for that, just the steering wheel. Shifter for the 10-speed automatic transmission, which I like the new transmission selector. A couple cup holders, and then you can see the center console. Notice the storage space within that, and then you can see the wireless phone charger. And then notice there with the little storage tray that you can pick up. And then dual glove box as well. Notice the wood trim there. See the stitching on the front, and then also at the top of the dash as well. And then there's a quick look at the mirror. It has a manual mirror dimmer with this particular truck. And then this one does have the sunroof and power sliding window. Pretty normal stuff. Lighter colored headliner. And then as for pricing on this Trail Boss, this one, if I remember right, stickered for like $64,000 roughly in terms of after all options, which, you know, in today's market is not as absurd as it would have been like, you know, 4 or 5 years ago. But anyways, popping over to the AT4, got a cool animation with the mountains and everything. Let me know which one you like more, Trail Boss or AT4 animation. It's a tough choice for me, personally. I think they both look cool. But notice the stop-start button's a little bit nicer looking too, in terms of just the finish on that. Now, as for the steering wheel, it's identical. You do have different stitching, you know, in terms of the coloration. And the trim's a little bit different there on the steering wheel, but the controls are all the same. So there is, I guess, no benefit to getting the GMC over the Chevy from a steering wheel perspective, but it's nice, at least it feels familiar. Same thing with the gauge cluster. It looks a little bit different in terms of the animation. And since this one's a diesel, when you go into the tow haul mode, notice it turns the diesel exhaust brake on. But, I mean, resolution's just as good on the Trail Boss, and you basically have a GMC truck there for the animation instead of a Silverado. So not a huge difference, and information you can see is the same with both of them. So yeah, like I said, I don't really have a preference one over the other from the center screen, but that's just me personally. And then going to the infotainment system, same thing. So first off, you can see camera system's just as good as what you have in the Trail Boss because you have the same camera system. I believe this one does have the cargo camera though. And notice get the same wheel shots and got the zoom function with the receiver hitch. Yeah, this one does have the cargo camera. So that's something that this particular AT4 has over that Trail Boss is the cargo camera. And then notice just a little bit different, like with the coloration for the center screen, but then functionality is the same, response time's the same as well. And you still have the auxiliary screen. I think the clock looked a little bit different too, was the other thing. Yeah, so the different formatting on the clock as well. So the screen just, it's the same screen, but like they just make the style look a little bit different. Different stop-start button. Notice dual zone climate, heated and cooled seats, so you don't get cooled seats in the Trail Boss. So that's another benefit here to the AT4. And then all the safety tech and everything's the same. This one, again, doesn't have the auto raise for the tailgate. Still have the hill descent control, and then, of course, the auto roll down with all of the windows. If you guys are wondering, in terms of the locking system, it still uses the G80 system with both of the trucks. They don't have a button you can press like with the new ZR2 or AT4X. Anyways, here's the shifter for the 10-speed automatic. Notice response time with that's great. And then the trailer brake controls, you can see they're below the shifter, which is kind of interesting. They've placed them there, like in a different place with the Sierra versus the Silverado. That's kind of weird, right? And then notice again the stitching. And the dash definitely looks a lot nicer in the AT4. It looks more upscale. Like that looks like luxury truck, whereas the Trail Boss dash kind of just looks more like, you know, off-road truck dash normal. So this definitely does have a more upscale looking interior with some of the finishes and how they've stylized things. So that's kind of something to mention here with the AT4. And kind of moving on from that, you guys can see here we've got the camera mirror system, which if you've been watching the channel, then you know I'm a huge fan of that from a safety tech perspective. This one doesn't have a sunroof, still have a power sliding window. And that's pretty much all for the top. Now, from a pricing perspective, this one's ticketed for about $68,000. There's like a $4,000 price difference between both of the trucks. Now, if this one had the 6.2 V8, I think the price difference would be more like $6,000, roughly, somewhere around that range, probably close to $6,000. So we'll just assume $6,000 to play it safe with both of these trucks. Now, is the AT4 worth $6,000 more? It really just depends on what you're going to use the truck for and what you want overall. So if we look at it from an off-road perspective, they are both equally capable, right? They both have tires that are as aggressive. They have the same amount of ground clearance. All the angles are the same on both of the trucks. It's not like the Trail Boss is more capable because it has the name Trail Boss versus AT4. They're both just capable from an off-road perspective. Then from an interior perspective, you have two different themes, right? With the Trail Boss, you've got your more dedicated off-road theme, so that's why everything's all blacked out pretty much, and why you don't have perforations in the seats, so that it's easy to clean, where you can just like take a rag and just wipe off the interior if you get it dirty. Whereas the AT4, right, with the nicer dash and the perforations in the seats and the air-conditioned seats and the nicer finish on like the stop-start button and all that, is more towards the luxury side. So what I'd have to say is, if you're going to take the truck off-road on a regular basis, right, Trail Boss probably is going to make a little bit more sense because the interior is going to be a little bit easier to clean off, and the truck's a little bit cheaper. So if you break something on it, you're not going to, it's still a $60,000 truck, but you're not going to feel as bad because it's $6,000 less expensive if you do break something, if you happen to break something on the truck. On the AT4 side of things, right, that's going to be the more, it's not like it's more comfortable from a daily driver perspective because they have like the same suspension and shocks and everything, but because the interior has more of a luxury appearance, you might feel more comfortable in it because you feel like you're in a nicer space. So again, it's just going to depend on which one you like. And I think what it comes down to for most buyers, frankly, is the exterior styling. Some people are just only GMC styling and some people are only Chevy styling, right? And so I honestly, like, despite everything I just said, I think that most people will choose one truck over the other just based on what the sheet metal looks like on the exterior. Anyways, let me know which truck you guys would pick. That's all.